Teeny Titans, a game about collecting various different figures from the Teen Titans Go universe and using them to battle in tournaments, working your way up until you face the final boss of the game. And this is a game I've 100%ed before, but this time I wanted to see if it was possible to beat every tournament in Teen Titans using only the main characters of the show, which of course are the Teen Titans consisting of Robin, Raven, Cyborg, Starfire, and Beast Boy. But before I show you how that went, let me quickly go over the rules that I placed for myself. Number 1, the figure must have either Robin, Raven, Cyborg, Starfire, or Beast Boy in the name, meaning something like Lady Legacy isn't allowed. My reason for this rule might seem confusing, but I'll explain more when we get into the game. Number 2, Just Gotta Dance Chip and Hive Coin are both banned, mainly because in my 100% video I realized that they give too much of an advantage. And lastly, number 3, no duplicate figures on the team. This one is extremely important because otherwise I'll just buy 6 basic Robins for my team and easily wipe the entire game. Oh, and quickly, like always, about 86% of people who watch my videos aren't actually subscribed, so if you end up enjoying the video, consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind later. Okay, enough rules and intros. Let's see how we performed. The game of course starts off with a cutscene where we beat Hooded Hood at the end of Teeny Titans 1, and then we're given a small tutorial of the game, but I'm sure mostly everyone's already familiar with how the game works by now. And more importantly, we had a selection to make between the 5 characters, and this time I chose to go with Starfire, who has a cute little kitten as a transition screen. Oh, and I should quickly mention that we are doing this challenge in Teeny Titans 2 and not Teeny Titans 1 because 1 is kind of just too easy of a game, and 2 overall just has much more to the game and the tournaments are way more challenging. But that aside, we made it into the Teeny Bus shop where we scrolled through all the figs trying to find a Starfire one, and eventually we find it in this bottom left corner, and it wasn't just normal Starfire, but it was Radical Starfire, who of course technically still counts since she has Starfire in the name. And as soon as we leave the shop, we're challenged by Robin to a battle, who on his team had Radical Robin. And so I quickly put the Radical Starfire onto the gamepad, starting our first official battle of the game. And since we have 2 of the 3 moves unlocked for Radical Starfire, I could quickly explain them, with this first one just being a basic attack where we deal 4 shots of damage, the first 3 only dealing 1 and the last one dealing 2. And this damage of course does go up as we level up the fig. But looking back at the moves, Radical Starfire also had this move that was named the Radical Pose, and basically it just gives you a power increase, meaning if we used it, our next attack would have dealt 5 extra damage. But I didn't end up using it as it would have just been a waste of energy, and instead just used 2 of our normal attacks, taking down Robin, getting our first victory, a level up on Radical Starfire, and 50 coins, which after increasing our power stat, we quickly put to use buying another fig since we had enough money. And I took a little bit of time looking at all the different figs and their abilities, but the choice here was pretty obvious, being basic Robin, making him the second and realistically the best fig that'll be added to our collection. And as we left the Toyman fig shop, we ran into this disguised man who basically tells us that there's a lawsuit filed against the Teeny Titans and that he needs our help getting to the bottom of it. And of course we want to help him since we love Teeny Titans. And with that, we're assigned our first mission of traveling to Gotham or Metropolis, but to actually travel there you have to have at least 5 figs on your team, so we needed 3 more. And having 100% of this game before, I knew exactly where to go, which was the Riddler and his shop, because when you enter his shop for the first time you get a green mystery egg containing 4 different rewards for you. And here I got pretty lucky because 1, I got a Cat Beast Boy that was of course a Beast Boy fig, and then I also got a 80s Robin fig, which though it is a Robin, it isn't technically a duplicate as the other one's just a basic Robin. And I can't lie, the 80s Robin was a pretty insane pull, and he was actually the reason I implemented the rule that the figs had to have either Robin, Starfire, Cyborg, Raven, or Beast Boy in the name. Because when I was strategizing what figs I wanted to use to try and complete this challenge, Lady Legacy was one of the first ones that came to mind, as she basically carried me in my 100%. But seeing just how familiar 80s Robin's abilities were to hers, I decided that I'd stick with 80s Robin while banning her. Because I'm not gonna lie, if used correctly, she could kind of just soul the entire game by herself. And I of course wanted this to be a challenge. But explanations aside, I won this battle that was against the Riddler, and this was mainly just to get XP for my figs because I knew I'd need to level them up for the tournaments, and it gave me enough money to buy my 5th fig, which in this case was Raven. Raven has some pretty decent attacks alongside an ability that allows her to slow down the opponent's battle bar, which can be pretty handy, but there is a downside to it in the fact that it's a purple ability. And to use purple abilities, the figs basically have to charge up, and if they're interrupted while charging up, they kind of just use that battle bar energy without using the attack, which can be detrimental, so you have to be a little careful with timing the attack. Oh, and this specific battle wasn't anything important or difficult. It was basically another way for me to get XP for my figs, which I got my Radical Starfire to level 3, unlocking her healing jam. And this is an ability that heals herself and the team, but it's a very, very bad ability and I basically never use it. Though after this battle, I'd finally made it to where the entrance of Gotham was, and we're instantly tasked to go find the Gotham City Police Department and Commissioner Gordon, because right now our main goal is finding Batman and Superman, as that one guy in the disguise outside of the shop told us that the lawsuit against the Teen Titans was from the Justice League. So we needed to talk to the heads of the Justice League to see what was happening. Oh, and if you saw the 100% video on this game, you might remember that I went to Metropolis first on that one, and this time I chose to go with Gotham just to see what the difference was. And a little spoiler, there wasn't really anything different. It's just the same things in reverse order. With that aside, I found Commissioner Gordon and he told us that the way to find Batman was just lighting the bat signal up at night, but sadly the light bulb inside the bat signal had broken, so we needed to find a replacement for it, which of course who better than Dr. Light. But after defeating him and his figs in a fight, he tells us that he doesn't just carry around light bulbs and we might have a better chance if we talk to the Penguin. Oh, and he gave us our first accessory, which was the Birdarang. And if you're unfamiliar, accessories are just a thing you can use in battle that kind of assist you, which you'll better see when we're in a battle. And for now, I decided to scope out where the Penguin was, which I found out in this top right area. But on my way there, I ran into this shop, so I entered it. And though it didn't have any characters that I wanted, it did have some pretty cool mod chips like the Super Stunner one, which basically whenever the character that it's attached to enters the battle, the opponent gets stunned. I also got the Smoky chip, which throws down a smoke bomb whenever the character enters the battle. And then lastly, I bought the Healthy Duck chip. Basically, every time we get a lucky duck hit, which is basically like a critical hit in this game, the character that deals the critical hit heals a little bit of HP. And for now, I put the Smoky chip onto 80s Robin and decided not to attach the other ones yet, as I was still a little uncertain of what to give who. But either way, I made it to the Iceberg Lounge where the Penguin is, and this I was already familiar with, was the very first tournament that I was going to go up against. And as I still only had 5 out of the 6 figs that I could have on my team, I decided to run back to the previous shop we're in one more time, as I'd actually seen a fig that I wanted, and the fig in question was Cyborg, who out of the basic Teen Titan figs is probably the second best after Robin. And that's because he has an ability that lets him sacrifice some health to charge up the battle bar, giving you a pretty decent advantage in the early game. And now with their beginning team completed, I decided to enter the very first tournament, the Iceberg Lounge Winter Classic, and our first opponent was Benedict the Penguin, who on his team only had Mas and Menos at a pretty low level, so up against my 80s Robin, Cat Beast Boy, and normal Raven, they were very quickly obliterated using one of Raven's punches, of course powered up by the 80s Robin's power up. And moving up the tournament, our next opponent was Icicle Jr., and this battle actually had a random effect named Mr. Freeze's Skill Chill. Basically, if you look at the ability on the bottom, after I used it, it kind of froze, meaning for a short while I can't use that ability again, meaning you can't spam abilities over and over again, which sometimes is the strategy in this game. And then there's also Poison Ivy that we're going up against, who is probably in the top 5 most annoying figures to play against, because she has an ability which blocks my healing and any positive effects, alongside a rooted ability which makes it to where I can't switch to my other figs. Oh, and my luck just seemed to be horrific in this battle, as some of the figs kept on dodging my attacks over and over again. So even though I had 3 figs, including Robin and Cyborg, which were basically the 2 best on my team, the opponent was kind of destroying me. But eventually I was able to use Robin's Staff Smash ability and take down Brother Blood, leaving only a 30 HP Poison Ivy. And here I was starting to feel a little bit more confident, especially because I dodged her annoying ability where she blocks the healing and the power-ups. But then she ended up using the rooted ability on my Robin, which was extremely problematic because I was switching over to the other figs to tank damage for my Robin, which of course this made impossible. But then my Staff Smash also got dodged, and that dodge right there was the biggest turning point of this battle, because I'd basically just used up my entire battle bar and missed. And then Poison Ivy ended up using her biggest ability, which damages all 3 of my characters, taking down my Cyborg, leaving my Starfire at 4 health and my Robin at 3 health. And at this point I kind of just had to get lucky if I wanted to win, but luck was not in my favor and Robin instantly got taken down, which then I went for a Hail Mary to try to heal up my Starfire using her ability, and I was able to heal to 10, but then she used her attack, getting me down back to 5. And at this point it was cooked because I couldn't deal enough damage. I couldn't even heal anymore because she used her ability, and eventually after one more attack my Starfire got taken down, meaning I'd lost in the second battle of this tournament. And in this game, even if you have have more characters alive on your team, if you lose a battle within a tournament, you lose the entire tournament and you just have to restart, which of course I did immediately because I knew that that last game was basically lost to luck and was still very possible to win. So again, I quickly took down Benedict and then was put up against Icicle Jr., which this time the random effect was Hot Potato. And Hot Potato, if you look at the very bottom right, you'll see there's like a bomb on my battle bar, and basically whoever has that bomb attached to their battle bar, by the time the timer on it runs out, that specific fig on their team dies. And you might have noticed right there, the way to get rid of the Hot Potato is completely filling up your battle bar, which then it sends it to the opponent. And thankfully the AI of the opponent isn't very smart, so it doesn't know that it's supposed to pass the Hot Potato over before the timer runs out. So I got into this position where I quickly took down Brother Blood, and then the Hot Potato was very close to exploding and the Poison Ivy still had it on her. So without me even doing anything, it exploded, taking down the Poison Ivy, which honestly I don't think this battle could have gone any better. That was genuinely perfect because it helps me preserve health for my figs for the future battles, as you don't really heal unless you get a heal from this random tofu within the tournament stage, which this time I did, which the choice here was pretty obvious, being my 80s Robin, as he'd gotten pretty low. But more importantly, we're now on our third battle against Killer Frost, and again we're forced another random effect upon us, which this time it was Joker's Laugh Factory. And basically throughout the battle there's a Joker toy that gets attached to both players, damaging both of the figs equally. And this one isn't too big of a deal, you kind of just have to be careful when you're getting low on health. And this battle, my 80s Robin had gotten pretty low, but he'd also basically taken down two of the opponents with him. And I'd remember there's actually another tofu coming up before the final battle in the tournament, so I switched out to my other characters just in case there's another chance that I got a heal from that tofu. But then as my battle bar completely filled up, I quickly switched over to 80s Robin using his final attack because it was my heaviest damage dealing attack, taking down the Catwoman. Honestly, getting my win pretty easily. Oh, and I wanted to protect 80s Robin because if you look here, you'll see he's level 8, meaning he's the highest level on my team and basically the best fig on my team as well. And if you're curious where I put his level up points, it's usually power or health, as the two basic ones just seem to be the best. Oh yeah, I do have the Cat Beast Boy on my team, but you don't see me use him too much as he kind of sucks, and he does get replaced pretty quickly in the future. But that aside, this tofu before the final battle gave me a team heal, healing my entire team for 8 health each, and now it was time to fight the final boss of the tournament, which is of course the Penguin. And before the battle starts, you can actually see what figs the opponent has on their team, and looking up top you'll see that the Penguin had a Penguin fig and Killer Croc, which may seem easier as it's only 2 figs, but these guys are usually a little bit stronger than they're supposed to be as it is a boss. Oh, and as for my team, I chose Cyborg, Robin, and Raven, which as you can see on the screen do get a 5 health bonus each as they're all Teen Titans. And this battle started off with me using Cyborg's battery, trading his health for some battle bar, and then switching over to Robin to spam the power up ability, all the while taking some attacks from Killer Croc which stunned me but didn't deal too much damage. And sort of afraid something similar like Poison Ivy might happen, I decided to just use my Staff Smash instead of spamming the power up ability, and this instantly got the Killer Croc down to 10 health, because if you look in the top right you'll see that both Killer Croc and the Penguin have a thumbs down on them, and then at the bottom left my Robin has a thumbs up, meaning that my Robin's element is super effective against those two. And though the element system isn't something you really pay attention to in this game, if you're lucky enough it can sometimes help you, which in this situation it did tremendously because I took that Killer Croc down in record time, leaving only the Penguin fig, who also after one Staff Smash got taken down to 20 health, and before he could do much I used 2 Birdarangs to take him down to 0, getting my victory surprisingly easily and obtaining a hefty sum of 500 coins for my victory. There were of course some level ups, with Cyborg getting his stat point into HP, Raven unlocking the figure customization thing, which this I'll mention when it's important, but for now it's basically an area where you can power up your abilities to make them even better. And after the level up screen we obtained the first trophy of 9, and though we somehow lost on our first attempt, this is technically the easiest tournament in the entire game, so I knew that I'd have to be even better prepared for the future tournaments. But before we go to them, we still of course had to find Batman for the story to progress, and we had gotten a nice light bulb for winning that tournament, but sadly as we're placing the light bulb into the bat signal it kind of just broke since it was made out of ice. But then Commissioner Gordon told us that he had the code to the Wayne Manor and that we might find Batman there, so of course I started making my way over there. And as we're decently far into the video, I assume there's a chance that you're enjoying it, so I do want to quickly ask one important question. Do you guys watching the video prefer the game to be like this and then there's a blurred background in the back, or do you prefer this instead where there's There's no blurred background and it's just black borders similar to how I did the 100%. And I'm asking this because there were some comments in the previous video saying that they'd prefer something on the left and right of the screen, and this seemed like the best option, but I thought I'd ask just in case. So let me know in the comments which one you prefer, because although for this video I'm going to choose to just do the blurred background, it'd be very helpful information for future videos. With that aside, I entered Wayne Manor going directly to the location that leads to the Batcave, but then I ran into an unexpected roadblock, which was this cow blocking an elevator named Bat Cow, and for some reason I have to fight it to get through, which although seems easy at first if you look up top, since it only has 2 characters and they're both level 12 and 13, but this guy is sort of like a mini boss, because even though they're level 12 and 13, the Nightwing and the Batgirl both have the stats of a max level 20 figure, and you can just tell by the health of my figs and its figs that there's a huge gap, which at first, I'm not gonna lie, I thought wasn't too big of a deal because this Nightwing sorta had a bad AI, but then out of nowhere it got smarter and one-shotted my Robin, dealing 35 damage. But the real problem came in when Batcow switched from Nightwing to Batgirl, who has some pretty decent power abilities and attacks, so I knew I had to do something about her, which led me to using Raven's third move, which takes the character in play out of play, bringing in a different character. So just like that, Nightwing was back in. But then there was another hidden problem, and that was the accessory that the opponents had, which as soon as it got to 100% charge, they brought it out. And if you're wondering, the accessory in question was the bat signal, and once the bat signal is called, a Batmobile pulls up and just dominates your entire team. So my 80s Robin stood literally no chance against it, and just like that, I had lost the battle. And knowing I needed to train up my figs a little more, I went the other way, up the elevator, back into the Wayne Manor, and just started fighting every character I'd see. The main reason, of course, being leveling up the characters to try to get them on par with Batcow. And eventually, after fighting the likes of Batdog and normal Alfred, I eventually felt confident enough to challenge Batcow again. My team stayed the same with the 2 Robins and the Raven, as they were sort of just my best options for now. And looking at my character's health, you can see that the leveling up definitely happened as the gap was much closer. And even better, with my first attack from Raven, I got a crit, getting Batgirl down to 50 HP, but then she used her third move and one-shotted my Raven with the exact amount of damage she needed. And just like that, I was at the disadvantage. But there's still a little trick that I had in my bag, which was the 80s Robin's most basic move, being the smoke bomb. And just as the Batgirl was about to use her final move, I threw down a smoke bomb, which makes it easier for me to dodge. And I just had to get lucky here, which thankfully I did. That dodge right there was very important, because if I got hit, the 80s Robin would have immediately died, as the Batgirl had used a lot of power-up moves, which then would have only left me with the basic Robin. But now it was still a 2 against 2 and the Batgirl was extremely low. And honestly, I was pretty sure that if we beat the Batgirl here, the Nightwing would be extremely easy, because for some reason the AI on it kind of just sucks. And as planned, I did end up taking down the Batgirl, which left Nightwing, but then there's that one thing I'd forgotten about, which was the bat signal. And I was kind of terrified right here because I thought it was going to one-shot both of my Robins, but surprisingly, after dealing a pretty decent amount of damage, it went away and my Robin still had a pretty decent amount of health left. And eventually, after trading attacks, my Robin did end up dying to the opponent's poison grenade, but then since I had my Birdarang out, the Nightwing got destroyed by it. And if I haven't mentioned it, the Birdarang, basically when you get attacked, the Birdarang deals damage back to the opponent. But that aside, I got some levels on my Robins, of course choosing the power stat on both of them, and then I was able to finally go up the elevator into Batman's room, where we saw lying sick on the bed. And after a conversation here with Batman and Alfred, they basically said they didn't know anything about the lawsuit because they love Teeny Titans, and we should definitely ask Superman in Metropolis. So I made my way into Metropolis, where first I ran into Cyborg and challenged him into a battle where he had a side mission of defeating him using only one character, but I was kind of getting destroyed here, so I ended up just leaving. But we definitely come back to do the side mission in the future, as a reward from it we need. So for now, I tried to get into the Hall of Justice, but it didn't allow me to, and we needed a secret entrance in which we ran into the Easter Bunny, who had dropped some of his Easter eggs along the way across all of Metropolis, and we needed to collect all 6 of them for him. The first one we found up here in this corner, the second one was just sitting on the sidewalk, the third one was hidden in a bush in the park, the fourth one was sitting by 2 trash cans by this building, the fifth one was hidden in a pretty difficult spot up on top of this bridge. And I'm explaining them like I randomly found them, but I of course already knew the locations of all of these from last time, which leads us to the spot of the final and 6th egg, where we first talk to the Green Lantern, who gives us the Green Lantern battery accessory, which is a pretty decent one because it gives us extra battle bar energy when in play. But more importantly, it was now time for our second tournament, being Hawkgirl's Treetop Tourney for the Birds, which we have to defeat in order to get the last Easter egg. But luckily, since we'd been training all of our figs to battle against a bat cow, you can kind of just tell by looking at Vixen's health that we're a little over leveled for this tourney. So we defeated the bird robin, with our next opponent being Dove, who also very quickly was taken down. Our third opponent was Supergirl, who in the 100% video gave me the most problem out of this tournament, but I knew how to counter her this time, so it wasn't too big of a deal. And this led us to the final opponent of the tournament, who was Hawkgirl herself, who seemed very nice and was very excited to fight. And her team, similarly to ours, consisted of the Radical Starfire and of course Hawkgirl, but our levels were still way too high even for the final boss, so we ended up winning without much trouble at all, obtaining the second trophy out of 9 and collecting the last Easter egg for the Easter Bunny, which leads us back to the Easter Bunny, who after we give the eggs to, it forces us to eat its eggs right in front of it. This game can get a little freaky at times. By the way, using its secret hole in the ground, we're finally able to make it into the Hall of Justice, where we're greeted at the entrance and given Superman's underpants, which is another accessory. And the underpants, if you're unfamiliar, fully block the damage from one attack. So if used correctly and at the right time, they can be extremely powerful. Oh, and you might have seen me talking to Flash there, but he's not really part of the main story, so I kind of just skip over him and walk to Wonder Woman, who without giving us much of a chance to speak, challenges us to a fig battle. And she has some pretty powerful figs, being the Flash, Green Lantern, and Wonder Woman herself. Oh, and she has the underpants as her accessory. And for this battle, you're mainly worried about the Flash and Wonder Woman. More specifically Wonder Woman, but the Flash can be dangerous if the AI is smart enough, which it usually isn't. And in my opinion, the Green Lantern isn't too strong because its abilities are very easily countered. That's because they're charge up abilities and the game really never knows how to time them right. But as you're about to see with Wonder Woman's one attack, she's more than enough to take down your entire team. And if you're curious, she doesn't normally do that much damage, it's just that she's kind of a mini boss, just like how Batcow was. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really give this battle too much of a chance and backed out immediately after I lost that first Robin, but I did still feel like I could beat her without doing any training, so I instantly jumped back into battle, but this time I traded out Raven for Cyborg. I'd been using Raven up until now because she was just a higher level and had decent abilities, but I was slowly starting to realize that she was kind of holding me back in some battles, so I officially made the change over to Cyborg, which was eventually just gonna happen. And so the earlier the better, since the figs you bring into battle gain a lot more XP than the 3 figs that aren't in the battle. And this way, at least I could start training up my 3 best figs. Oh, and using Cyborg's battery, I was able to power up a lot and completely one-shot Flash, taking down one of the main threats. And then doing the same thing, I was about to one-shot Green Lantern as well, but I'd completely missed the fact that the opponent used the Superman underpants accessory, so the Green Lantern ended up surviving. And that was a huge L for me since I used so much battle bar energy in powering up and even using the attack itself. But thankfully, like I mentioned, Green Lantern isn't too strong in this game, so I was actually able to get him down to 1 HP with the same Robin in play. Afterwards, getting lucky with the Tofu, which increased my bar speed, and I quickly changed over to the other Robin since its attack took less battle bar energy, which of course allowed me to defeat Green Lantern, and now all that was left was the final boss, Wonder Woman. So I quickly switched over to 80s Robin using his power-up ability because this Fig's ability was better than my other Robins, mainly because he was a higher level, but later on the other Robin does get better. And after one more power-up, I could see that my final attack was about to deal 85 damage, so saving up for it, I used it, and this was able to take down Wonder Woman. Now the only worry there would have been if she dodged the attack, but you're gonna see later on exactly why the Robins are so good. But for now, we conversed with Wonder Woman asking the whereabouts of Superman, and she told us that he was filming a movie in Jump City. So of course, I quickly made my way over there, but then I was having this conversation with the security guard and he needed a bribe. And the bribe in question was buying 10 figs for him. And it could be literally any 10 figs, so I chose the cheapest ones, even buying some extremely important things like the Raven spellbook accessory, which in my opinion is one of the best in the game, as it basically halves the speed that the opponent gains battle bar energy, and it stays for a very long time. But that aside, I went to the beginner shops as it has the cheapest figs, and at first I was buying all the figs to bribe the security guard, but then I also specifically started buying out all of the Robins, and that was for this specific reason here, because you can feed figs to your other fig and level its abilities up. Now I bought out all of the Robins because you have to feed a lot less figs if it's the exact same one, and if none of that made sense, all you need to know is that I'm simply leveling up my abilities. And the important one is the second one, which is the Batarang attack, and leveling it up gives it the ability of being undodgeable, and this undodgeable trait is extremely important because the higher level the opponent's figs are, the more likely they are to dodge, and this literally just makes that not a problem. I I did also level up the 80s Robin Smoke Bomb, but that's like the least important ability he has, and later on we get to level up its other two abilities, which are a lot more important. But for now, I just didn't have the necessary things to do so. Oh, and I should say there's a lot of things I'm not really mentioning in the video, as it's either just me leveling up or collecting things like this Titan coin. There was even quests I was doing that kind of just gave me more money, but in the grand scheme of things, it don't really matter that much. And you saw me basically do all of it in the 100%. But what is important is this tournament that we do before going to Superman, as I'd been invited to the Brain's birthday party, which apparently was just a whole trap set for me, and we'd have to beat this entire tournament to get out of it. And the first battle was against Brother Blood, whose Fig was the level 10 Brother Blood, and I very quickly took him down as he didn't have too much health. Our next opponent was General Immortus, which had the random effect of Joker's Laugh Factory, and his Figs were a level 10 Santa Claus and a level 11 George Washington. And though they did chip some health off of my Figs, I was able to win without losing anyone. The third battle was Madame Rouge, whose team consisted of other May-I, Rose Wilson, and Catwoman. And besides Catwoman, the other two kind of just suck, and even Catwoman suffers a little bit as her only good attack is the one at the end. I mean, she does have that same attack as Poison Ivy where she can block the positive effects from me, but it doesn't deal nearly enough damage, and I had Superman's underpants, so I got away with only nearly losing my Cat Beast Boy, who was sort of just brought in as a meat shield, and it did its job pretty well. Our fourth opponent was Painbot, and I'm not going to keep us too long here as there's another very easy battle, which brought us to the main boss of the tournament, Brain, or more specifically Birthday Boy Brain, whose team consisted of a level 15 Mantra Mala and Radical Silky. And these guys, again, though they're pretty high level, they lack in the ability factor. So Mantra Mala was defeated without any problems, which brought in Silky, who genuinely didn't have any good attacks. So eventually I was able to just spam the same exact attack again, taking it down. And to be completely honest, that was probably the easiest battle of the entire tournament, and it got us a pretty hefty 1200 coins. And again, before I went to Superman, I made one more stop, and that was Cyborg in Metropolis. If you remember, I have to beat him using only one Fig, and now I had high enough level Figs to do so. So bringing in my 80s Robin, I completely destroyed the Radical Cyborg, and then did the same exact thing to the normal Cyborg as well. And this mission was specifically important because I wanted one Fig on my team, and the Fig in question was Radical Cyborg, since it technically doesn't count as a duplicate, and I'd argue it's a little bit better than normal Cyborg. The only problem, of course, would be leveling it up since it's only level 5, and all my other main Figs were now level 10 plus. If you're wondering who I replaced on the team, it was of course Cat Beast Boy, but I'm not gonna lie, Radical Starfire's time was also coming because she wasn't as good as I originally imagined, but I'll mention that when the trade happens. As for now, I finally made it back to the security guard, bribing him with the 10 Figs, and getting into the movie lot, where I went straight to Booster Gold in the bottom left corner, as this was our fourth tournament that we'd compete in, and it was basically an assistant tryout which would get me the card that I needed to make it to Superman. And I'm just gonna skip straight to the Booster Gold fight, as this tournament was basically the same thing as the Brain one, consisting of fairly easy battles, but this time the boss did have some pretty good Figs, being Blue Beetle, who is one of the better Figs in the game, but only if he's used properly. And since he wasn't, I was able to take him down very easily, leaving only Booster Gold to go up against. And Booster Gold can be pretty problematic if you give him enough time, but the Robins are basically built around blitzing down the enemy, so we took him down very quickly, getting us the victory and the fourth trophy for our collection. Only 5 more to go. And the next 5 we basically fight back to back to back, as a lot of my Figs are very high level, so there's not really much training needed anymore. But looking back at the game, we got the thing that we needed to get to Superman, and using the thing on this door, we're able to get through, and standing right in front of us was Superman, who basically tells us that the Justice League had nothing to do with the Teeny Titan lawsuit, as they all love Teeny Titans, but there was a very suspicious law firm in Jump City, and that we'd get our answers if we went there. So that's exactly where I went to. And then a cutscene starts where the law firm starts transforming into some sort of machine, and out from the top of it comes out the main villain of the entire game, Slade, who basically explains his master plan to us about how he was the person behind the lawsuit against Teeny Titans, all because of some little kid making fun of his figure. And as you've probably already guessed, this was another tournament, more specifically Slade's unexpected and climactic final tournament of Doom, and it consists of 3 battles, the first of which is against the Robo Secretary. And I'm not gonna lie, this is a very annoying first battle, because if you look up top, you'll see that the Robo Secretary has 2 level 20s, one of them being Batman Beyond and the other being Joker. Now Batman Beyond happens to be literally one of the worst figures in the game, so he isn't the problem, but Joker is extremely annoying as his damage output is very high. And on top of that, there was a random effect on the match where every time I used a move, my Fig would flip to another one, and I didn't really have a choice of which one it would flip to. It'd be kind of just random. But to be completely honest, on this first battle, I performed pretty well, taking out Joker almost instantly, and then eventually taking down Batman Beyond as well, leading us to the second battle against the Robo Paralegal, who on his team, if you look up top, had Batman and Rose Wilson. And here, I kind of underestimated both of these characters as I only brought one of my Robins in and the other two were cyborgs, and things got even worse as I'd super boosted my attack, getting the damage of the Robin's last attack to 108, but then Rose Wilson dodged 2 of the kicks, surviving with 36 health. And that was literally 2 full minutes of powering up in order to take her down immediately, but it didn't really work out as I planned, and I really just had to pray that the game's AI was being stupid, and thankfully it was, because it could have defeated me on many occasions but chose not to, which of course I then took over the opportunity and somehow defeated them. But this led us to the battle against Slade himself, where of course I had to bring in both of the Robins, and then luckily I'd gotten a revive tofu, so I revived my cyborg and brought him in as well. And if you look up top, you'll see that Slade only has his own Slade fig for the battle, but as expected, it's super powered and is way above a level 20, having an impossible 175 health, and with one attack literally taking down 2 of my figs, nearly 3 because one Robin was left at 8 HP. Now at this point, it's basically cooked. My only hope is that it keeps spamming its first attack because it doesn't deal any damage to me, but that didn't work out for too long as it used a normal attack and took down my last Robin, meaning just like that, I'd lost the tournament on my first attempt, which afterwards I gave the tournament a couple more attempts, but just kept getting very unlucky with the random effect, or just straight up losing a bunch of my figures in the very first battle to Joker's final attack and having to restart over and over again. But then eventually I made it back to Slade, this time only having one Robin, and so I had to use a Raven and Cyborg instead, which made me extremely unconfident in my ability to win this battle. But then I was able to get a pretty big 70 damage hit off with the Robin Staff Smash, even getting out my Raven spellbook before the Slade dealt any damage to my team, and very thankfully he used his battle bar energy on his second attack instead of his third, which saved my Robin and Raven, still sacrificing Cyborg, but this gave me a chance. And at this point I was kind of just trying to chip him down as much as I could, and honestly the Raven spellbook was nerfing him a pretty insane amount, and slowly but surely I got his health down to 2, meaning I needed one more attack and his battle bar was also at the end. But then again I got saved because the game just used his second attack instead of saving up for his third, meaning my Robin was left alive, and the Robin has an undodgeable attack, meaning I'd won the battle, claiming victory, 2,000 coins, and the 5th trophy out of 9 in the game, which settled the main conflict of the game. But like I've mentioned, this game has 9 tournaments and we've only beaten 5, and 2 out of the 4 remaining actually are way more difficult than this one. And for the 6th tournament, we had to head back to Gotham, more specifically Arkham Asylum, where we run into Bane, who's sad because his friends won't join his tournament. So basically we're tasked to make his friends join his tournament, and after completing all the tasks, we go back to Bane, challenging Bane's annual BFF tournament. And compared to what we had just battled, this tournament was much easier. So eventually we took down Bane and his Bane figure, getting myself the 6th trophy. Our 7th tournament is also in Gotham inside of Wayne Manor, and it's a tournament of just Alfreds, and more specifically this is usually a training regimen for Bruce Wayne. But I realized that this one was much easier than I expected, as the first 2 figs were only level 9 and 10, so I was able to take down all the Alfreds, even the last one, this time using Cyborg's attack just because of how easy it was. And this got me my 7th trophy. Now I knew the last 2 tournaments were much more difficult than what we had just faced, so I made my way over to the beach in Jump City and entered the mod chip shop, which basically just contains the mod chips. And skipping forward a little bit, I gave normal Robin a mod chip that increases his power by 3 points. I gave Radical Cyborg the Instacaster mod chip, which basically gives him a 22% chance to instacast a purple ability, and that's important because one of his attacks is a purple attack and it's pretty decent. Next was a Tough Stuff chip given to the normal Cyborg, and this increases its health by 15, but it makes it so that he can't dodge. Oh yeah, I also bought this Bat Robin replacing the Radical Starfire, but I didn't really mention him because he's kind of useless and I never really use him. But what isn't useless is powering up the 80s Robin's abilities, which first we got the Heroic Pose up, and that gives it a plus power increase. And before I actually leveled up its last ability, I went on a mini training arc because my figs just weren't high enough level to take down the next 2 tournaments. And my first attempt at training was against Slade's tournament again, but then I ended up just losing on my first attempt. So I defaulted defaulted to the booster gold tournament, which gave decent XP every battle and it increased in the later battles, and I kind of just trained until I got both of my Robins to level 20 because this made me feel a little bit more confident in my ability of winning. But then confidence was also boosted when I upgraded the last attack of 80's Robin, because like the battering attack, this one also gets undodgeable, very similar to how Lady Legacy is as well. And now it was time to take on the second to last tournament, which we'll find in the watchtower out in space by teleporting over there, and the tournament belongs to Martian Manhunter, consisting of 6 different battles, which is literally double the amount of battles from the Slade tournament. And I can't really say we start off easy, as both of the figs we go up against are level 17 and 18. But of course, I had made massive upgrades to my team as well, and the main premise of my team was kind of sacking off 2 of the figs and just using the Robins to take down all the opponents. And this was actually working way better than I imagined, because I continued to sweep past even the strongest of opponents until it was eventually time to face Martian Manhunter himself, who on his team has a level 20 Superman and a level 20 Martian Manhunter. But I'm not gonna lie, Superman sounds intimidating, but he was actually very easy to counter, as the computer didn't really know how to use his abilities at the right time. Now Martian Manhunter on the other side was actually pretty difficult, because with one attack he critted, dealing 77 damage to my Robin and bringing him down to 9 health, and my Bat Robin and Radical Cyborg were also extremely low. Oh, and that 77 damage that he dealt was with a crit, but also there was no power-ups on it, so a non-crit I knew still dealt 50 damage, and I'd have to be very careful, which thankfully I got down the Martian Manhunter to 15 health, giving me more confidence that even if my Robin died, the other 2 could handle him. But then my Radical Cyborg got defeated, and right after it went my 80's Robin because of the accessory that the opponent was using, meaning I only had a 7 health low level Bat Robin against a 15 health max level Martian Manhunter. But Bat Robin's middle attack dealt 16 damage and was a purple charge up attack that somehow landed without being interrupted, meaning the fig that I was kind of just making fun of ended up coming in pretty clutch here. But from this point forward, he does become useless, I promise. And now I kind of had 2 choices: either train up my team a little more or just straight up head into the final tournament, which was the hardest one in the entire game, and hopefully win. And I knew I'd messed up a little bit when I didn't even have a 6th accessory in the 6th slot, and this tournament had 8 opponents in total, all with nearly max level figures. Oh, and the boss at the end makes it 9 enemies in total, making this tournament technically 3 times harder than the Slade one. The first battle, I bring in Radical Cyborg, Robin, and Bat Robin, and it ends with a swift win for me without losing any of my figs. The second battle, I bring in the same exact team, but this time Bat Robin wasn't as lucky and it got down to 5 health, and then my Radical Cyborg also got down to 4 health. But thankfully the other team was basically wiped out, so I switched over to my Robin using one last Batarang to take out the other Robin. 2 battles in and we're nearly 2 figs down. Thankfully next up we had a random Tofu, which gave us 14 HP for everyone on the team, meaning my Radical Cyborg and Bat Robin could survive a little bit longer. And though I could bring in any of my other 3 figs, I knew that I had to keep on going through with just these 3 and then rely on the other ones for the final battles. This battle though, somehow I ended up winning without losing any of the 3 and maintaining their health, meaning there were 5 more battles left. And once again I brought in the same exact team, and this time the opponent had Lady Legacy and my Bat Robin wasn't as lucky and kinda just got decimated. But my normal Robin was able to heavy carry, taking down all of the opponents. We're now halfway through the tournament, and next up was another random Tofu, and getting pretty lucky we again got a team heal. Now 2 of the figs were the exact same, being Robin and Radical Cyborg, but my third one was Raven. And the good thing was I could also start using my accessories as we only had a few opponents left. This next battle we didn't lose anyone and maintained our HP, meaning 5 opponents were down and 3 regular ones remaining. We also had 2 Tofu back to back, which the first one gave me a 20 damage boost to start off the game, and then the second one gave me an 18 HP heal for 1 fig of my choice, and 4 of my figs were full health, so of course I gave it to Radical Cyborg. The 6th battle again I brought in Robin, Radical Cyborg, and Raven. Raven in this battle took a pretty big hit, getting all the way from 91 HP to 27, and then as Sticky Joe used an attack that hits all 3 of my characters, Raven ended up dying as she got critted. But then I was able to finish off everyone using my Robin, meaning 6 of the 8 regular opponents had been beaten. Now for the final 3 battles I started upping it a notch, bringing in both of my Robins comboed with the Cyborg, and this battle went pretty smoothly, only with the downside of my Cyborg losing a ton of health because I was using his battery batteries. Now we had one more regular opponent before the final boss. And again, I brought in the same team of the 2 Robins and the Cyborg. And in this battle, I had to use Cyborg as a meat shield against an attack that dealt 75 damage. And if that had hit one of my Robins, I would have been in big trouble. But Cyborg, of course, like I mentioned, had to be sacrificed since he only had 7 HP remaining. And of course, I was quickly able to finish off the opponent using Robin's attacks, meaning we'd beaten all of the regular 8 characters, luckily getting an 18 team heal from the last Tofu. And now we're up against the final boss after the final boss, Mr. Chibi, the owner of the Teen Titans himself. His team, of course, consisted of Mr. Chibi, Hooded Hood, and Bathman, basically a version of Batman that's taking a bath. And on my side, I didn't have much choice as I only had 3 figs remaining alive, but luckily I'd argue it was my 3 best figs: Radical Cyborg, Basic Robin, and 80s Robin. And going into the battle, I felt pretty confident, but knew that there was always a chance I could still lose. But strategically, I'd also saved my Raven spellbook accessory for this fight, as I knew it'd come most handy here. And slowly but surely, using the attacks of Robin and Radical Cyborg, I was able to dwindle down the Bathman's health, which then forced to switch over to Hooded Hood. And things got pretty scary as Hooded Hood's battle energy was nearing max, and he pulled out the Bat Signal accessory. So I did quickly switch out to Radical Cyborg just in case the Hooded Hood used his good move, which of course he did, and my Radical Cyborg had been taken down, meaning it was now a 2 against 3, and the opponent had decided to switch out to Mr. Chibi. And before much could happen, the Bat Signal called in the Batmobile, dealing about 20 health of damage to both of my characters. But then my attacks were also very powered up, so I was able to take down Mr. Chibi with 1 attack, evening the playing field to 2 against 2. And using his attack, which was similar to Raven's, Hooded Hood got my Robin down to 32 HP. But at this point, I had a huge advantage because I had the Raven spellbook out and their battle bar was extremely slow, so I was able to power up and then immediately use a Batarang, taking down Hooded Hood, leaving it now to a 2 against 1 against a very low HP Bathman. And using 1 power up ability followed up by 1 final Batarang, we had taken down Bathman and Mr. Chibi in his own tournament. Honestly, with a team that wasn't even leveled up a crazy amount. The only people whose abilities I'd leveled up were the Robins, but somehow it was enough and we got the 9th and final trophy of the entire game, meaning we'd completed our challenge of beating all of Teeny Titans 2 using only Teen Titans. And there's not really much else to say, so again, if you ended up enjoying the video, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye bye.